Hello.
Hello, SOSers.
Hello, saucers.
saucers.
Hello, cheers. Look at us. We're so LA with our juices that match our own outfits. This is embarrassing, and also I'm proud of it.
Exactly. So if you're not watching us on YouTube, you're missing out on the monochrome.
Yeah, the color coordination is lit.
We should name our episode Monochrome Magic. It'll
Yeah.
have nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Correct.
Which is fine because we're on mimosas. We just came back from brunch.
We're on mimosas. Like we're on. I'm on mimosas right now. Have you ever been on mimosas?
I'm like, oh my, I just need a fix of mimosas. Come on, man.
Straight to the vein.
I mean, I would.
But yeah, same. Really, really would.
But yeah, we are.
Speaking of our stumbling language right now, really what today's episode is about is women in the workplace, the languaging around, well, in a professional setting, how the patriarchy really is just pervasive as always.
Yeah.
It is the patriarchy. That's why it's called that. But the way that women are conditioned to talk, the way they are looked down upon and not taken seriously because of languaging, and the way that men are conditioned to speak in emails, in person, and, you know, there's a lot of discrepancies in it, and it really plays a part in the way that women are or aren't able to elevate in the workplace.
Yeah. And it's something that you might not even notice.
Yeah.
Really, I know it's something that I haven't because maybe I'm really don't work in a professional setting. No one wants me in that setting.
It's really hard to even do this with you.
Yeah. But I remember when we talked to Caitlin and
Yes.
I love that interview.
Yeah. Our episode with Caitlin Barclay, you guys
Yeah.
need to listen to that.
She had talked about her experience working with other men. I mean, she runs a very successsul business, so she has to talk
And
to
it was
a lot
like
of
a
men.
startup, and she frequently pitches to rooms full of men in business settings. Whereas like you said, you're a creative, you work for yourself. Essentially, I work with a bunch of women.
Yeah.
So in like a boardroom situation, Caitlin had a lot of insight on that.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck, that's so true. Because she was basically breaking down emails and how they can come off to a male superior versus a female superior. It's just wild. It's not something until someone points it out sometimes where you don't really realize what an issue it is. And it really is. And then recently we had an episode with Alexa where she talked about it too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I forget in what context now that she brought it up, but it's so
Yeah, I
true
don't remember the
about,
context.
I think it had to be about, women, because she likes to, she's a therapist that primarily, I believe, works with women. And part of the things that she breaks down with them and helps them unpack is their power as a woman and how we've kind of, in different settings and contexts, will lose that power.
And we mute it intentionally.
Yeah.
Kind of subconsciously, but it's like an action. It's really, well, Caitlin Barclay in the episode with Caitlin mentioned the book Word Slut by Amanda Montell. And she's considered a feminist linguist. Was that one of her titles? And reporter. But she wrote this book centered around all of this, which I haven't read yet.
Yeah.
Have you? You haven't read it either, right?
Oh, no, we should.
I want to. It's in my Amazon cart. I don't want to promote Amazon.
too.
Sorry, but I do love Amazon, but I hate
We're not a
perfect person. You guys know. But
we were like, no, we don't.
we don't know. We're gonna hang up now.
Please move on.
But that book. But I really do want to read that. But she mentioned it a lot and how. Caitlin was mentioning it in regards to how she was told by a lot of men as she was starting her company and pitching and like given advice from like, you should really change how you approach this. You should really, and then she had this moment. This is from what I remember her saying. Like she had a moment where she was like, wait a minute, why am I listening to you when this is my company and it's working? She's incredibly successful. She and her business partner were featured in Forbes. They're doing it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am selling myself and the company that I started. So I'm going to represent myself the way and she's very professional. I've known her since college, and she, even in her like rager party years, she was able to she would flip it on for a presentation or like working out. I mean, she's very professional. Yeah. So and I remember her saying it comes down to like, I learned that part of my power is how I communicate with people and how I connect to people. And that's some of my femininity. That's a part of it. And so I think it's really crazy to me that we associate femininity with weakness. That's always our society does because we're in a patriarchy. But it's like
Preach.
if you say something that is considered feminine, or if you act in a way that's feminine, or that is just synonymous with weakness in a lot of ways, especially in business.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have to be about business specifically. It's just how women interact.
Hmm.
When you meet someone new, like that's what we talked about, the high
That's what it was. Yeah, yeah.
and it's something that like it makes you give a pause because you are conditioned to like, for lack of a better word, kind of think lowly or think
Like you think you have to fall into
down.
this because we were talking about how your
Like,
octave, your vocal octave goes up as a woman when you are like seeing friends or something, and everybody's like all of a sudden, "Ah, ah, ah," and it's
Yeah.
not natural.
yeah,
It's natural for us to do that because we're conditioned into it, but in our physical being, it's not natural for me to my voice is like this tone, but then when I see people, it's like, "Ah, ah, ah." No, like why are we doing this? And so and this came up. Another thing before we dive into this article in the book,
Yeah.
really, but a friend of ours texted me, like he double booked something, and he texted me to apologize because he couldn't do it. And I'm really good friends with him, known him for years. It's not like a weird formal business relationship. It's like a good friend, and he was like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I have this today. I'm not able to make it." And genuine apology, but it was over text, and there were no exclamation marks, there were exclamation points, there were no like I'm so a million O's, sorry, there were no emojis. It was like, I am so sorry, period. I can't make it, period. It wasn't overly done. And yet it was sincere and it was enough. I didn't feel like it was dismissive or like, and I read it and it did stand out to me. I was like, wow, look at this. Like not dwelling on it, but I believe that you're sorry in the same way. And if it were me, I would have felt the need to
Oh, me too.
overdo it. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was so unprofessional of me.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I know how that feels. And I don't want you to think I would have gone like that. And there's
Especially
a line.
me and you. Like I would do that because I'm just like, I don't,
Yeah.
with my female friends, I will do that 100%.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just like, I'm trying to think though.
I do it more. You're right. I do it more with female friends than if it's a male friend. Not because it's it's a different type of respect. It's more because I trust. One thing I love about, and this is such a blanket statement, but I have always related to men on this level. I have a lot of male friends it's always been refreshing to me that generally men are much better at taking things at face value and not reading in too deeply or taking things and I hate saying these blanket statements because women do not always do this and men don't always do this. But I do notice that with my male friends, if I'm like, I'm so sorry, I can't make it today. I thought I could. And I'm sorry. That is what it is. And there's no weirdness. And with a lot of women, it's like, I wonder why couldn't she make it today? Or and this sounds so catty, and I really don't like saying this about all women, but
I think there's a deeper thing there. I feel like men don't have to worry about it because they were conditioned not having to worry about it. I feel like
you're right.
You think about women and, going back. I know there's like studies and people talk about this a lot where just gossiping in general, is so frowned upon, but it was actually a source of kind of like survival for women back in the day, because this is how they relayed information back and forth. It's how they can, they know which men to fuck with.
Well, and it was one of their only outlets to integrate in society because they couldn't work. They were all like, you just have to marry for your status. So you have to, depends on what era we're talking about, but in general, it's like, that was a lot of kind of the only outlet women had a lot of times for socializing because you don't have a separate place of work. You're like at home with your kids or your other female friends who are like stay-at-home moms, or it's so deeply ingrained that there's a reason. There are certain stereotypes have truth to them. Like it is refreshing to me with my male friends to just be like, I can't make it. It's like, okay, cool. No worries.
Yeah. You want it to rub off on you.
Yeah, exactly. And later on, it's not like, well, she couldn't make it. I don't think she wants to hang out with us. No, it's like, I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of how I interpret things even when my girlfriends tell me like, oh, they just say something, I take it at face value. And then I also have a lot of female friends who are like, but what did they mean? And I'm usually the one to be like, they probably just couldn't make it. They
Yeah.
probably or they probably just didn't see your text
I think
or
it's like something you have to work on. To
yeah.
not, because it just reminds me of the gossiping thing. It's like we use that as a form of survival. We have to play chess as women. It's like it's our strategy in life.
Exhausting, yeah.
We have to read into things because we don't have the power, and our power is our mind. Our power is in how
Yep.
we read energy.
And we're not
how
given the respect of being throughout history. We have not been given the respect of being communicated directly with as an equal. So
Exactly.
we have to manipulate. We have to read into. We have to curate and try to play a game. And that's where gossip comes from. That's where
yeah, we have to play a game.
that's where passive aggressiveness comes from. That's where this languaging issue comes from. But it really is a deep, serious issue. It is a game.
It's a game.
And it's so messed up.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting of how we can move forward in that. I think with a book like Word Slut, where we actually, and the fact that you can be a feminist linguist.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so dope because it's like, I've never heard of that profession before.
Right.
But
Feminist
someone like
linguist.
that is so helpful for us to kind of pinpoint what in our conversations aren't moving us forward and what should we keep doing.
Yeah, where's the line?
Exactly. So we're considered equal. And I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like this just teaches us that women are natural born leaders because we play chess and we played chess since the beginning of time
And
with our communication and
yeah,
our linguistics.
and there's a thing of like, you know, we're put into a corner as women where you either morph into the patriarchy and you're one of the guys and you communicate like the boys and then you're in the but that doesn't push the feminist agenda forward.
Yeah.
That just puts you in with the men, but you don't then in the eyes of, you know, the boardroom, you become the exception. Oh, well, she's one of the guys. She's a cool one. Instead of them looking at you and being like, oh, maybe I should respect more women.
Yeah.
They look at it. It's looked more upon by society as like, oh, well, she's an exception. And so it's like we kind of women, it's kind of a lose-lose. Like you shoot yourself in the foot if you blend in and adhere to those requirements and even languaging in the professional situation. If you start to, you do it how the men do it, the people in that room might respect you and then you're one of the guys and that's cool. Yeah. But you're not furthering the feminist agenda in doing that. You're just submitting to the patriarchy. But that is oftentimes the only way to get ahead. So what do we do?
It's a fucking lose-lose. And there's a really great article about Amanda Montell's Word Slut book that we definitely want to dive into and read. But this writer, Claire Miller from The Lifted Brow, shout out, talks about her experience reading the book and how she kind of related it to her own experience. And she says, in a job as an educational publishing assistant, I was told my emails came across too harshly. A few men had responded, how dare I tell them what to do? I'd ask for documents.
Fragile ego. It's so frail.
I'd ask for documents signed and scanned for writers to take on board constructive feedback from independent reviewers. I was never rude. I had stuck to the form emails that my male colleague had used the year before. After being asked to complete the task to his contract, one man shouted at me over the phone another would not make the required changes to his work. I had to rewrite my emails hyper polite, saying, it would be great if you would be able to, or would you mind? And my colleagues' emails remained to the point. From the moment I was told I needed to change the way I wrote my emails, I knew it was gendered. But it wasn't until reading Word Slut that I saw it play out across the double bind. I feel like it's like a Word Slut, like little.
I know this whole episode is about that book.
But
Yeah.
it's just a good point of reference. But this is a quote from Word Slut. She could phrase her email with a straightforward tone and no frills punctuation. The project needs to be done by tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thanks. But because we have a certain expectation of how women are supposed to communicate politely, indirectly, that might earn her a reputation as a cold bitch. On the other hand, she could pepper her email with hedges, exclamation points, and an emoji. If you could possibly have the project finished by tomorrow at 3 p.m., that would be amazing in caps. Thank you so much! Exclamation, exclamation, smiley face. But because we have certain expectations of how bosses are supposed to communicate blunt directly, that might make her seem jumpy and unfit to lead.
Exactly. These are the things that
women are emotional and they're just so...
Yes. And I have a friend who's is there more to the quote?
I mean, she just talks about her own, but you know, I go back to it.
Well, I have a friend who's a freelancer and she's a creative. she brings people on to help her with work. And she was telling me the other day, she likes to have work with as many females as she can. And she was saying too, she's like, I have a really hard time having people do things for me, like assist me or do anything for me, even if they are here in that position as my assistant or here to do this. She's like, I will profusely apologize over and over for things that they're fine doing, that I hired them to do, that I'm paying them to do. And I still feel the need to be like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she was saying this to me. She's aware of it and she still does that. And I notice,
Oh my God, I specifically did that at brunch today.
did you?
Okay, so our food came out cold.
Yeah, yeah, like very cold.
And our server, who was a guy, very sweet, it came out cold twice,
Yeah.
but we just like left it alone by the second part. But that could have been just like an inherent, like, I don't want to be the difficult.
I know, and it's from having been
women.
servers too, where we're just like, it's fine. I'll
and the
eat
food's still good.
Yeah.
But like stuff came late, like drinks and stuff like that. But every time I would get it, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Can I get the waters? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? It's just like ingrained in
It
my
is
head.
ingrained.
But I'm thinking, well, my intuition is making me think that this is just, I'm being polite, not necessarily feminine. I'm just being the polite person.
Because that's what we are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Instead of, I can be a nice person and still ask for what I need.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if it's different in the service industry setting because servers are just shit on.
I think it's different for you and me because we were servers.
Yeah.
There is that level of like, we know all the nuances of it could be the kitchen's fault. It could be that it could be his fault, but like
been abused
for like a long time. I think we're a little skewed with the service industry where I'm willing, but at the same time,
something
because I do still notice that in myself. Apologies. I was hanging out with a friend a couple weeks back and what was I telling him? I was telling him about so that not the last episode, but the episode I recently was opening up to about having cheated in the past and like all the trauma that it caused me.
Right.
So I was telling my friend about this and I was just like, I felt so awful for years, like working through self-forgiveness and all these things, but it did add in a layer of me feeling like I'm not trustworthy. Mm-hmm. And that's separate from what we're talking about, but the same in that was years and years in my 20s. That was so long ago because I'm so old now. No, but I was like, it was like 6 years ago or something. And I was telling him about this and I was like, yeah, so I just had to work through a lot of things of like feeling like I need to prove that I'm telling the truth, even in mundane situations, Yeah. And he had mentioned to me, he's like, oh, I noticed that. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? You didn't know any of this about me? What do you mean? And he was like, well, I just noticed, I forget what it was, a couple times already that evening. I had said something to him like, oh, sorry. I don't even remember what it was about. And I didn't know that. And he's like, it was not a big deal. Like, I don't even remember what they were, but he pointed out to me and that made me think of it. Because I'm like, how often am I doing this?
I don't even remember my mom apologizing a lot. It's not like something I learned behavior that way.
Well, it's so societally ingrained that even when it's not coming out as a literal, I'm sorry, mannerisms say that. Our decision to even deciding like, should I say something about this or not? That's an apology.
Yeah.
Even deciding to not say something is being like, oh no, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's everywhere.
Yeah. I feel like, especially now, and this is not, Karens should fall in a ditch and stay there. But, and I'm thinking now in the service industry standard of just like the apologizing and using sweeter tones and not being demanding. I feel like that could all, with the Karen apocalypse that's fucking happening now, I feel like that makes me, is the word regress? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stick to that, just again, apologizing a lot and being accommodating because you don't want to be the difficult woman, right? And that setting, 100% get it. But when it comes to interpersonal relationships and business, is being the difficult woman such a bad thing?
Well, that's the thing. It's like a double-edged sword because you are not perceived as it's not a quote unquote boss move to be super polite and accommodating. And that's not like a badass boss, which everyone wants to be. And everyone thinks you should be if you're the boss. But if you are just straight and to the point, it is received differently when you're a woman. So it is another like lose-lose. You kind of have to just pick your battles and then trust that the people you have under you know you well enough, or you hire people that I mean, it's just like, it's a game. It's women having to play a game. Which of the worst of two evils do I try to forward the agenda of my entire gender, or do I try to just get by?
I know.
Like, it's like you can't.
I know. Ryan, my husband, was just telling me, and he works on film sets.
Also, Ryan is wearing a shirt today that says girl power. So let's just shout out Ryan right now.
And we listened to Brittany on her way to brunch today. He was like, I'm going to put on, I was like, no, I want the aux or whatever. It's fucking Bluetooth. Like, I want to put on music. He's like, no, trust me. You're going to want to listen to my Spotify. I'm like, oh, okay. Cause he just listens to like sad boy rock. And he put on like Britney, and I was just like,
oh my God, that's hilarious.
What are you doing later? Anyway,
want to hang out.
Anyway, off topic. He was telling us, and he had been telling me for a while, about the show that he's working on. There's a female AD, assistant director, that a lot of people aren't vibing with on set. And a lot of crew is male dominated naturally. So I remember him telling me this and me being like, well, is it, they just don't want a
woman in that position.
Right, exactly. And then I think about my own experiences on set and witnessing ADs. And I've only had one female director that I've ever worked with and one female AD that I've ever worked with. And the female director that I worked with on the last spot I just did was so fucking cool. I mean, that's the top position. So she probably was just like super comfortable in it. But the AD, there's a lot of pressure because you're the one that's communicating with all the departments. So your communication skills have to be on because you're the bad guy, right? The director is not going to yell at everyone to get in their place. Well, yes, but to make sure everyone's where they need to be when they need to be, when they need to be there. That's the AD. So I remember this one film set that I was on that was a female AD. And she was very just almost like overly on it. And she was old. She was an older woman too. And she was smiling a lot. Like, not that it matters, of course, but like, she was just like.
It does though for us.
I know. It's something that I clocked. Right?
Yeah.
Where she was just overly thankful when actors would arrive, overly thankful when people would be in their spot. She would sometimes, I remember like on the walkie, like say, make sure this, the lighting's in place or whatever the fuck, and they'd already be there. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And kind of get like, she might have apologized, but she was just very self-deprecating after. And meanwhile, the director was this short, and I have to say short because this is just that kind of stereotype, short little British white dude that was a fucking chihuahua, basically. He was just barking at everybody.
Oh, God.
He was just a fucking asshole. He was nice to me, but like to the crew, he was just fucking yelling. Oh, there was one, it was bad. Like he was just screaming at the crew. And it's just so funny. You can tell, even if she was being so overly accommodating, the crew was still respecting that guy way more.
See, that's what's so like unfair.
Up.
And she was nailing it.
She wasn't fucking up, but what's the word? It's like she was just being a little too
passive.
Yeah, and trying to overly do her job to a point where it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
And still wasn't kidding.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of an impossible position.
Yeah.
Because you either outdo everybody else and do your job the best and don't over apologize or over emote and just be a boss. And then you're considered, oh, well, who does she think she is? Oh, she's not. Or the opposite. And then you have less respect, but then people like you more. Like, that's the thing. We're always taught as women too, to just, that's why I think a lot of women have such a complex about being people pleasers, because we are just taught through, and it's not from a parent or a specific person, through just growing up in this society that we live in, you're taught like, no, make people like you, make people feel comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
make people around you feel comfortable. I get like mad anxiety when, and this is a personality trait too, but I get mad anxiety when I can tell that someone in the room with me, even we don't have to be at my house, someone in the room with me is like hot, or I'm like, maybe they're thirsty, or if I know they have a headache, I'm just like, so
Oh, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't,
Yeah,
or I like notice, and this is part of me being like, I just perceive inner, like unspoken dynamics between people. But if I feel like someone's like, oh, they're feeling, oh, that just made them feel like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I am just like, I'm so uncomfortable. But I know part of that is who I am, but part of that, a big part of that is like how we're conditioned, like make sure everyone feels comfortable
Yeah.
and everyone's okay. And everyone,
And
women are just,
you're accommodating no matter what.
yes.
No one's going out of their way to do anything that they don't want to do just because of you. Like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you have to be the one to sacrifice, no one else.
Yeah. And why is that? And I still consider myself like pretty good at setting boundaries for myself. In certain situations, I haven't in all situations in the past, but like
Yeah.
as a rule, I think I'm pretty good at prioritizing taking care of myself, but that doesn't translate into all situations. That translates into me saying no to things when I don't want to go. It's
Mm-hmm.
like giving
Mm-hmm.
myself alone time. I'm good about that. I'm good about that. But if I'm in a social situation and I'm uncomfortable with something and someone else is uncomfortable with something, I will make sure they're okay before myself.
Yeah.
And it's not always because I love that person. It could be someone I just met, but it's because
Mhm.
I feel like I need to.
It's true.
So weird.
And now that I'm thinking too, I feel like my only female friend that I don't feel like I have to overly be, accommodating, I
Mhm.
guess, in my communication with her.
Mhm.
I notice I do that because she never responds that way ever. And she's not like a overly feminine person to
Mhm.
begin with. Like
Yeah.
she's not like a tomboy, but she's just
Yeah.
not an overly feminine person.
Mhm.
But she'll just be like, nope, can't do it. No sad faces.
No,
I can't make it this weekend.
No,
Sorry.
telling you why. That's another thing I've struggled with. Like,
so we'll just do a sorry. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like I don't really think about it. It's not like, oh, I need more for it's just because I'm so used to it.
yeah.
And so if I ever have to do it back, which I think I don't know if this is I don't want to generalize and say, oh, because I'm a more feminine person, that I will tend to want to give the frillier responses, right? And be more accommodating. I just don't think about it. I just give, if I have to cancel or something or
Yeah.
reschedule, I'm just like, can't make it. I won't give it back to her because
Yeah. Because you
or
don't,
give
and
her
it's
the same energy.
refreshing.
Yeah.
Because it's also like, why do we feel the need to explain why? We don't owe people these explanations. If you want to give it, fine. But if I can't make it to something I'm invited to, I don't have to say, sorry, I have a work thing that day. And then a dinner later, I
Yeah.
can't make it. I can just say, sorry, I can't make it.
Yeah. It's just so, wait, do you have like any experiences in your workplace now when you talk to like men versus women or
I'm around women like
all the time?
yeah, all the time, which I love, like 99% of the time.
And are
But
they
when we
like
do
super
have
accommodating,
accommodating as in like, what do you mean?
like will their emails be or text
Oh,
be
no,
like,
actually
please?
it's like a really bad communication style, lack of afraid
sick.
of confrontation. It's pretty toxic to be
Sick.
but that's also an example of what happens when it's all women too, as much as you want it to be all women, but then it's a thing of like, oh, okay, so no one can handle confrontation, so nobody's going to look me in the eye and say these things, or no one's going to be straightforward. Like it's I don't know. And when we do have men come in that we work with on like certain projects, I always find it refreshing because it's like I always gravitate and then just like ugh,
Yeah.
just like chill in the corner and be like, what's up?
Because it's so exhausting.
So exhausting.
Especially when the environment is overly exhausting already.
Yeah.
This is a really good point to what we're talking about. According to Megan Bowler, and this is an article, I forget, I'll shout it out. According to Megan Bowler, professor in the Department of Social Justice Education at the University of Toronto, the experience is likely common because the workplace is a traditionally masculine environment. We're talking about that before. She says language is one aspect of our broader culture, and certainly within language and culture are embedded all sorts of expectations and norms around gender. For women in the workplace, the expectations are contradictory. On the one hand, women are culturally expected to be emotional caretakers and nurturers, and all of the roles have historically been understood as appropriate in the private sphere, taking care of children in the home. In contrast, men have traditionally occupied the public sphere. I feel like it's like interesting, the difference.
Yes.
When women buck tradition and move into the public sphere, there's this double standard where they aren't emotional enough, yet when they do express emotion, they're penalized. In essence, for women in the public sphere, there's no winning.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's really what it is, because even politicians, where it's like you're either completely like, think about how they look at Hillary Clinton, for example. She's completely stripped of all sexuality in just how it is in the public sphere of like, okay, her suits and she's just a cold,
the short hair.
Yeah. It's that, or then you have like AOC, where she's criticized for wearing red lipstick, or she's like,
it's like because she's younger, she's more feminine. She'll wear more like tight clothing, and
even her like so conservatively dressed, like it doesn't, but it's always something like that about a woman's appearance, her sexuality, her professionalism, instead of, oh, what are her policies though?
Yeah.
Like, what's she talking about?
Yeah. And it's so fucking interesting because, I mean, obviously so many men have called Hillary a bitch in her time and every time. But AOC was literally told by one of her colleagues to her face that she was a bitch. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Where
in the spectrum
exactly
you
you
fall.
are in your femininity and like how powerful you come across. It does not matter. You can shrink yourself. You can be
of a different generation. Your age doesn't matter. How you dress doesn't matter. How you speak, how you carry yourself doesn't matter. There's criticisms for any side, and it all comes down to you're just a bitch because you're a woman in power.
Yeah, and especially with AOC specifically, the fact that she's Latina probably has something to do with the sexualization of her.
For sure.
And I mean, Bowler says this double standard she sees every day in her email correspondence with students. She says the impact is twofold if your name is associated with another race. If the name is perceived as ethnically coded in some way, there's a much greater chance of discrimination. So it's like, I mean, it's going to be so much more worse when you're a woman of color who has any sort of, last name Garcia or first name, whatever it is. Like, it's just like you have to work in like an overdrive, an overtime just to fit in to the narrow box in which this public sphere is.
Exactly. And you can't just be yourself and especially women of color, they have an added weight of like, okay, I'm representing all Black women right now, as well as all women right now, as well as like, because anytime a woman is at,
or queer
quote
women.
unquote, quote unquote, at the table, anytime there's a woman, that's why the pressure is you either, you can either morph, you can either turn into like, be a gatekeeper and not let other women in because we're taught there's only room for if one woman gets in, there's surely there's only room for one. Like we're pitted against each other. The cattiness comes out. It's like there can't be two women, but which woman is but there's 6 men in here. Like why is this a thing? But we're either goes that way, or you take on the extra weight of like, okay, I am representing my entire gender right now, or my entire race right now, or both. And just by me in this one room. And so then I have to think all these things in my head. Like, I forget what this was about. I think it was, during the debates, the VP debates. And Kamala Harris someone was reviewing the debate. And I forget who was doing this. I think it was a woman of color though, was saying, do you guys realize, someone was criticizing Kamala and this woman was like, do you realize the mental gymnastics that this woman has to do in every moment before she says anything? Just because, aside from how you feel about her politics, just because you are a woman up there, you are a woman of color up there, you are like vying for one of the most quote unquote powerful positions in the country. All of these things
has gotten to that point.
Yeah. And then like your response is you don't have the luxury of being a white man up there who can just say what he thinks and just let it be. Even if that alone is hard when you're in a debate, all you should have to worry about is what you think and what you want to say. But she is like, all women through history are coming through me, and all Black women through history are coming through me, and I
All
also
East
have to
Asian,
accommodate
yeah.
to these white men that I'm going to be under, and all, like everything.
It's insane. I know. And it's so fucking hilarious. Like, I think back to the shit that Penn says or Trump had said in those debates. They're literally like making fun of, well, I just remember Trump
Everyone.
making fun of Biden's drug addicted son, which is
Yes.
hilarious. Good job. And it's just so fucking sad to watch someone like Hillary or someone like Kamala have to just kind of think and process before they say what they say. Otherwise, speaking about Kamala Harris specifically, she'll be deemed as the angry Black woman because that is the easy go. If she loses any sort of not temper, but if she just isn't the most even keel, smartest, if she isn't the smartest person in the room
and the most composed.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, it
the
really
microaggressions when it comes to that shit is real.
And it really does put, you know, when we're talking about politicians, it really does put your political views on like the last rung of the ladder, because you can't even get those out if people don't see through the fact that you're a woman and you're a woman of color and you're
so what are you wearing first? What's your hair giving me now?
What are you wearing? Do you look tired? Do you have under eye bags? What color are you wearing? Are you wearing a skirt? How short is it? Are you wearing a designer? Who do you think you are?
The Supreme Court that just happened with Kentucky. Oh my.
Yes.
That was, did you see any of those, any of the hearings?
I saw some of it, but I didn't see anything about are you talking about outfit?
Well, no, I mean, it was just like everything that people were breaking Republicans were breaking down. Like, she's literally the most qualified justice in the history of all justices. And yet it wasn't enough for these Republicans. It just, there was something about her.
What could it be?
What could it fucking be? Meanwhile, they had no problem voting in a rapist.
Oh yeah, no, but that's just the world. That's why I think, and this is going down like, this is my true Aquarius coming out, but like, why do we even look to politicians and politics to guide us anyway? Because it's such a tight, small, tiny game that they're playing.
Yeah.
Even the ones that we like respect and admire, like you're putting yourself into a structure that is not actually sufficient for humanity. Like, I mean, now I'm just going really big with it, but I'm just like, it's exhausting.
I know it is. It's
exhausting for anyone, let alone women.
Yeah. The only thing that kind of brings me hope at the of all of this,
the aliens
saw this online. No, always aliens.
The aliens.
Is that there are companies, because we're millennials, me and you, and we're like, I guess, old now, because there are Gen Z heavy companies now, obviously, because they're early 20s. There are startups and companies that are run by Gen Z. I can believe that,
and late 20s.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're old. But they have been sharing, because there's been a question of like, how do Gen Z write their emails? Like, what do they do, especially when they're just talking to their peers who are the same age, Gen Zers? And their sign-offs and how they write their emails are so fucking, because everyone's just submitting what they do, and they're all like on the same level. They're like
men and women.
Yeah, like instead of there's no men and women. There's no exclamations. There's no extra, frill to it. It's very even. But there is.
Are these professional emails?
In their emails to each other, yeah, they'll sign off. Talk soon, loser, Mila. He bye, Gia. Like, they take all the.
Because I'm like, are these just emails with their friends, or are these like work emails?
No, these are their workplace emails specifically, but to other Gen Zers, because they don't fucking care about this fake professional,
the structure,
masculine,
hierarchy,
dominant public sphere. That's
nice.
Around, like, because the common sign-offs would be best wishes, thanks, sincerely, kind regards, all that shit. But I love that they're like, that's all. Will be one of them.
Yes.
That's all, Alyssa.
Is that the Meryl Streep reference? That's all.
That's all. Another simply wrote he bye, while third rejected use of commas, writing all right. David.
That's funny.
Another employee went as far as using profanity, telling his colleagues, fuck you, I'm out.
The South Park, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Yeah, the CEO of Fox and Robin, an activewear company which claims to hire only Gen Z, also shared some emails that he's received. It's a Gen Z world. I'm their millennial boss. Hasta la pasta is one of them.
Wait, so he's a millennial, but he's only will hire
Hires
Gen Zs?
Z. Yeah, I mean, they are the future, I guess, right? Others wrote apologies for existing, which is kind of like
That's
meta.
what we should. That's what the title of this episode. That's it. Here it is.
Apologies for existing. Insert pleasantry here and kill me. And I just think, at the end of the day,
Why do we take ourselves so seriously?
yes, I feel like taking the pressure off women in general, understanding that there is a double standard and that we have to conform to exist in this masculine environment, whether it's in a business setting or in interpersonal relationships. We have to figure out where we fit and how we express ourselves, but also giving ourselves boundaries and peace of mind. But at the end of the day, we have to take all those pressures off and not take ourselves seriously. Because this is just all fake. We've made
This
it
is
all up.
all fake. Did you see the meme going around? And it had different words on it, but it's basically a picture of our galaxy, like all the stars and like the sun and it then there's a little dot and a line and and there were different things that were circulating, but one was like, "You are here crying in the shower before work." And it's like basically like we think these things are such big deals, but we're like minuscule in the galaxy. We made it all up.
This is all fake. Everything that we're doing is just because some other idiot told us this is kind of like how it goes.
Right.
And we're like, okay, I guess we'll try it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then when it doesn't work, we're still like, I guess I just don't work.
Yeah. Or like we look to another idiot that does it another way. We're like, okay, I'll follow that idiot.
This is why the aliens haven't shown themselves, because we're not smart enough.
I know.
Don't deserve it.
We're not a
Perfect person.
Anyway.
Apologies for existing.
Apologies for existing.
We're out.
Well, first,
Our sign off.
shout out to
Black
The
Lives
Lifted
Matter.
Brow. Shout out to Amanda Montel and Word Slut. Pick that up, guys. Read it, ingest it, and give us your opinions on our Instagram, which is at the SOS Pod.
Manifest Destiny. We have Amanda as a guest.
Ooh,
Putting it out there.
We are on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa. We are also, like I said, on Instagram, but we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google. Patreon. Please be a patron because we're
Please
cool
help
and
us.
we have cool content and merch, and
We have some pretty funny extended interviews, bloopers,
little bloopies.
a bunch of stuff that you won't see
silly.
here. We're just like crazy. I hate that.
Black Lives Matter, Planned Parenthood. Rate and review us too. It helps us reach more people. Yeah, we love our patrons, Steve, Nigel, Nancy. We love you guys. We're going to shout you out if you become a patron. So join our Patreon, and then every episode you'll get a shout out because we just love you.
I love you so much. And I'm Molly Cottrell.
I'm Alyssa Rosano.
Here's to turning meltdowns
into magic. Kill me.
Apologies for existing.
I'm out.
Sorry.
Fuck you.
Sorry.
Sorry. I'm sorry. This is stupid.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so
sorry. I don't even know what I'm doing.
I'm sorry. Let's just redo this.